Tavern, the original Bell and Hand Tavern, actually existed not too far down the street over here, halfway down the block. And it was run by a man named Jimmy Wilson. Now, prior to the opening of the Bell and Hand Tavern, Jimmy Wilson was Boston's town crier. Now, town before we had, got our news from people like CNN and messing up the news for us, we relied on town criers. Now, Boston was a very literate city, a more colonial city. There were some 10 newspapers in Boston, the only colonial city that could boast that name. However, most people could not read them, so we relied on the town criers for our news. And for 50 years, Jimmy Wilson was Boston's main town crier. So during the time he was town crier, we had the French-Canadian War, we had the Stamp Act crisis, the Stamp Act riots. You also have the beginning of the Revolutionary War, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the signing of the Constitution. All those things people heard for the first time from the lips of Jimmy Wilson. Now, after being a town crier for 50 years, time. So he decides to do something else with his life, and that thing, of course, started opening a tavern. Keeps the savings, opens up a tavern, calls it the Bell and Hand Tavern, because that's how everyone knows Jimmy Wilson, with that bell in hand, which is the main tool for most town criers. Now, the original Bell in Hand sign is around, and you can go to the Museum of Fine Arts to see it. That's where it is. The original Bell in Hand sign is owned by the Museum of Fine Arts. That's how most taverns would actually sell, sort of show off their signs. They would not have a sign that actually would say Bell in Hand Tavern. It would just be a bell in hand. That's how you know it's Bell in Hand Tavern. There's a tavern that was called the Blue Ball. And all that was a big blue ball in front of the tavern. A bunch of grapes, same thing, so on and so forth. The Dog in the Pot. Those are names of actual taverns that existed during that time. As we mentioned, taverns were very important to the economic life of Boston and other cities around here in Massachusetts. There was actually a law passed by the Puritans during the 1650s that said all cities in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, all towns, must have a tavern. They insisted on having a tavern. Now, why would Puritans insist on a place, a den of iniquity, like a tavern? Well, taverns are very important to the economic life of any place. In order to inspire economics, that sort of thing, they knew taverns were important. Taverns were where people met and found out things. Taverns were where you got your mail. Whenever mail was sent to you, it was never sent to your home because we didn't have a postal system. So they would send it in care of the local tavern. So if Joe's Tavern wanted your, you wanted your mail sent to you, a package or something, you go down to Joe's Tavern and say, hey, Joe, is there anything for me? And maybe you'd get something to drink while you're there at the same time. So commerce is happening, everybody's having a good time. It's win-win for everyone. Taverns were also where judges would hold court. This is very important, especially during the Puritan period. There was only a limited number of judges. So the judges would go into what they called a circuit. So each town would be part of the judge's particular circuit. That's where we get the term circuit from, circuit court judge. And where they would hold their court, of course, is in taverns. So taverns usually were large enough that you would have a hall where they would hear all the court cases. On the other end, on the other side, that's where the actual bar and things like that were. And more often than not, a person who would win a court case, a civil case, would celebrate right next door by buying everybody, including the judge, a drink. So once again, win-win for the judge as well. Now for ladies, back in those days, it was hard. You think things are hard nowadays, imagine back in those days. Ma'am, if you had property before you married your lovely husband right over here, guess who gets to own all your property? This guy, right over here. Oh, I'm sorry. You switch. That'd be ridiculous. Yeah, he gets all your property. I'm not sure how that works, but suddenly, no, he would get all, of course, he would get all your property right over here. So no matter what you brought into it, you would wind up technically ruling all your property. Now there were women who did become prosperous during those times. And one of the ways they would do that is, well, be fortunate enough to marry somebody who was kind enough to die before them and leave them a bunch of money. A woman named Elizabeth Murray was able to make herself a little fortune by this way. She married men that just happened to be wealthy and have a tendency to die and leaving her a good deal of money. Now she was able to retain her money when she got married a second time because she was able to draw up the first known prenuptial agreement in the country's history. So we're talking about the 1740s when she had done that. She drew up the first prenuptial agreement, so she was able to actually maintain a lot of her own wealth. That was part of the problem. If you had any sort of legal thing ahead of time, that's when the husband, by default, would wind up getting her money. That's what she had found out. So she was not only able to add, because her husband's tendency to die on her, she was able to also retain much of her wealth as well. She was a very influential woman here in the colony at the time. Now, women who did were not fortunate enough to remarry, but did have some property left over, more often than not, they would turn their properties into taverns. And that's what they were able to do, sort of, and they'd be a combination, taverns, inns, also, places that were taverns that had homes, places where people could stay as well. So there were many women who were able to make a living doing that. And there was a good number of them. By the 1770s, there are some 300 licensed taverns in Boston. Among those 300, some 70, 75, no, a little less than that, actually between 40 and 45 are owned by women. So women were able to find ways to actually get around the laws and such to actually establish themselves. For African Americans, that was one of the few places we were able to get work. Easton was working in the taverns right here on the docks. There's so many taverns on the docks around here, so they catered to sailors and money. So it was pretty lucrative as long as things are flowing and there wasn't any problems. As long as the sailors the dock workers are employed, things are great for the taverns around here. When they weren't employed, things are getting rough all over. That's part of the whole economic life of Boston. Now we are getting